Around 8.5 billion rands worth of vehicles are stolen and hijacked in South Africa every single year. 4.9 billion rands worth of them are taken across the border of neighbouring countries. Now, this leads to billions in losses to the insurance industry. But for more on this, we're now joined by Lieb Liebenberg from the South African Insurance Crime Bureau, painting us a picture of exactly what the insurance industry has to go through due to this crime. Lieb, thank you for your time and good morning to you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Let's talk about the stats, and you were showing me a couple of them just during the ad break. But let's talk about the numbers in terms of that increase, and also interestingly that at some point the number was going down, but again we saw that increase once again.
Yes, we saw that the numbers are going down. Year from the early 2000s, the numbers of reported cases has actually dropped. But what is alarming at this stage is that the numbers are picking up again. And then also carjacking is picking up, and that's a concern. And if we look at the 2013, 2014 years, in that case, the percentage of vehicles going missing where they were hijacked was not that big. Currently, in the last financial year, the full year, it is actually comprising 36% of vehicles going missing that are hijacked, and that's a concern.
It's a concern, especially even to the insurance industry. So what's then been the cost of loss to insurance industries?
For the insurance industry, and you must remember that not all vehicles, it's the smallest percentage of vehicles that are insured. We are looking roughly at about 4 billion rand worth of loss in the previous reporting crime stats here.
Yeah, and I suppose even for the vehicles that I mentioned before, could be the Toyota, Hilux or Fortuners, the Ford Figos, and the Nissans that I mentioned. I'm sure other cars. What would a typical premium, amount be then to those drivers? Because I can imagine if those are targeted vehicles, then surely the insurance industry has to adjust the premiums because they're the most hijacked and stolen.
Yes, those are obviously the biggest risk, and the insurance industry accommodate for that. And they will have to adapt because those makes up the biggest percentages of the losses. Because those are also your popular models that are wanted by the market.
Yeah, and even with that number that we spoke about, Lieb, of those cars that are actually transported out of the country and into other SADC, regions, countries like Mozambique as well, receiving those cars. We spoke about tracker, during an ad break. Is it effective? Because I'm sure a motorist wondering, what are the chances of me recovering my car if I do have the likes of tracker? Are they high?
The majority of vehicles are recovered with tracking devices installed. So it is one of the biggest things on recovery of vehicles. However, if we find that victims are being held captive while the perpetrators are looking for these tracking devices these days, and they find these tracking devices, remove them, and that has an effect on the effectiveness of the devices. But the tracking devices within the first 48 hours is still one of the biggest factors with the recovery of vehicles.
Yeah, because they're so brazen and quick in terms of stripping these cars, transporting them. So chances are within approximately 48 hours, if your vehicle hasn't been tracked, then chances are they've made way, with the crime, Lieb. I have to let you go in a few seconds. But before I do, what advice would you give to motorists just in terms of the type of insurance premium that they should consider, for their vehicles? Obviously, we can't avoid hijacking and theft. The crime stats in this country is so high, but insurance can help you somewhere along the way.
Yeah, it can definitely help you. But the people must be aware that they don't take out the cheapest insurance just to get the vehicle financed. They must really look at what do they use the vehicle for. Say, for instance, is it used for business use? Is it used for e-hailing services or whatever? And that they are upfront with the insurer on that, and that they insure their vehicle correctly. And then they will have sufficient cover.
Well, I appreciate this advice. Lieb Liebenberg, thank you so much for joining us. Lieb, of course, coming from the South African Insurance Crime Bureau, the Senior Project Manager there. Thank you so much for speaking to us.